Thank you for staying with us. Now, President Buhari says that the resolution over the ban of open grazing by southern governors will not solve the farmer-herder clashes, as it is of questionable legality. Now, the president added that his administration is working on other alternatives to address the security challenges and bring peace between farmers and herders. Instead of a ban on open grazing, President Buhari believes the rehabilitation of forest reserves across the country will curb the bloody clashes between herders and farmers. In line with this agenda, the federal government says the funding for the project that has been delayed is now being partly unlocked, and actual work for the full actualization of the modern reserve system in a few of the consenting states should take off next month. But Benue State Governor Samuel Otom says the federal government's insistence on open grazing suggests it has a hidden agenda. Now, the governor faulted the federal government's plan to commence rehabilitation work on grazing reserves in the country next month. He added, quote, "As it stands, the presidency is the lone hand pushing for the continuation of open grazing and the return of cattle routes of 1950s and 60s. The presidency has, by its endorsement of open grazing, emboldened armed herders who lay claim to all lands in Nigeria as belonging to Fulani, hence their invasion of farming communities and killing of original owners of such lands." Now, the Ondo State Governor, Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu, also says the ban on open grazing has come to stay and on the verge of getting the legislative backing by the State House of Assembly to make it a law. He believes the ban on open grazing will benefit all the stakeholders in the livestock business value chain when the operation begins, end quote. Now, joining me now is lawyer and public affairs analyst Olutubosun Oshifowora. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Nice to be here.
Now, let's get your reaction to the president's statement. I believe that you have been following developments with regards to this ban on open grazing, where the southern governors, 17 of them, met and decided that to end the clashes between herders and farmers, especially in their region, and to bring to a minimal reduction the issues of insecurity, that there is the need to ban open grazing. And we saw that some of the governors had actually implemented that, when you look at Ondo State, for instance. And now the reactions coming with regards to that statement has been divergent. We see the Attorney General of the Federation, where he talked about likening the banning on open grazing to banning spare parts dealers in the north. And some are saying that the statement coming from, that's talking about the Attorney General, challenged the legality of the ban on open grazing. And the statement coming from the presidency seemingly echoing that as well, challenging the legality of this ban. Talk to us from the point of view of the law. When we talk about issues bordering on a ban on open grazing, we know that the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution as amended, Section 41, talks about free movement of persons. Now, where does it state? Perhaps you might enlighten us if there are areas in the Constitution that is actually in support of movement of animals beyond humans.
All right, a quick one. If we look at this thing, I think the presidency is being emotional than being legal in solving this thing. And it's quite unfortunate, because even if you look at the statement from the presidency, where they stated that they understand that there's been clashes over a period of time between the herders and the farmers. And then, having known this fact, you still went ahead to state that this is your own position, contrary to the position of the governors. I think it's best we just take it step by step. Number one, the Constitution is supreme. But the Constitution also recognizes other laws, because all the laws that governs the land cannot be contained in one book called the Constitution. So the Constitution gives vent to other laws. Right. And the Constitution recognizes other laws. Okay? Now, so having said that, it is also good to point out that the governors the governor of every state, based on the Land Use Act, it is stated that the land in every territory of every state is vested in the governor. So the governor is like the sole owner of the land, though he holds it in trust for the people, and he has every right whatsoever to state positions on the land in his own territory, in his state. Now, so the Constitution recognizes that people can move from place to place, but it is still not without its own exceptions. In fact, if you look at Section 41, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it goes on to say that the governor can actually step up. The Constitution says that there's an exception to that freedom of movement. So you can't just be moving up and down like that without certain exceptions. There are instances, particularly for security reasons, that those are instances where your movement can actually be curtailed. Now, the movement is also restricted to human beings, not animals. Now, open grazing supports movement of animals from one place to the other. Now, the southern governors have sat down and looked at it that, come on, these herders are taking a different dimension. They've taken a different dimension from what we used to know. Back in the day, you know, herders go about with stake controlling the cattle. But now we've heard of killer herders taking over territories, herders wielding AK-47, and that is a security concern. That's why the governors have come together and decided that, okay, you know what, this open grazing is not working. Despite the constitutional guarantee that there's freedom of movement, okay, herding of cattle is a commercial activity, and every governor has a right within the Constitution to actually determine how commerce is being done, particularly where the commerce affects the lives and security of the people in the state. Now, so there is no contravention. If there's anybody who is being mischievous here, I think it's the presidency. Unfortunately, the Attorney General came on and said that this decision of the southern governors border on constitutional illegality. There is no illegality in the resolve of the southern governors. The reason being that they have not stopped anybody within the states from moving from one point to the other. What they have stopped, what they have raised is the security concern of the killer herders. And they feel that, come on, look at this thing. Back in the day, people carry cattle from the north to the south. But these days, this open grazing thing is working against the security of the people. And every governor is the chief security officer of his state. Now, so if 17 governors have come together to determine that this is how we want to run, I think it behoves on the presidency to sit down and look at this thing rather than grandstand. In fact, the best thing that can happen is for the Attorney General to approach the Supreme Court, not to come out and say brazenly that this is a constitutional illegality. It does not lie.
In fact, the understate governor, Governor Keredolu, is saying that they are ready to challenge this in court.
Absolutely, they have the right to do that. But you see, the thing is this, they have made their own laws. If the Attorney General of the Federation feels aggrieved, he is the one who will take the matter to the Supreme Court. Right. As far as the governors are concerned, they have done what is within the law. They have done what is legal. They have not contravened provisions of Section 41, subsection 1 and 2 of the Constitution. In fact, they have acted in line with the position of the Constitution that where there is a security breach, where there is a problem regarding movement of people, where a problem arises with movement of any individual and it causes security breach in a state, then those that are saddled with the responsibility of creating or handling security in the state can actually curtail the movement of the individuals. Mind you, this Section 41 has not even said anything about movement of cattle. Right. It has talked about movement of human beings. Now, cattle eat grass. Human beings don't eat grass. So the restriction is basically on herds. It's basically on cattle. It's basically on livestock and not restriction on human movement. And mind you, every state also has what they call forestry laws.
Right.
Now, so based on the laws, except where there's a federal land that has been gazetted that, okay, this can be used, then the federal government can actually go ahead and do that. But if the laws in the state does not permit for such, if the governors in a state has stated that this thing is a problem to my state, then the governor is within every right to stop any form of open grazing.
So we should be looking forward to perhaps some cases in court with regards to this, seeing the back and forth that we are witnessing between the government and the state governors.
Absolutely. I think the Supreme Court will be better positioned to just put paid to this thing and lay everything to rest. But so far, the governors have the right to do what they have done. People should stop being emotional about this thing because it's taking some other dimension. Now, these people feel that you want to take over our land and you are grandstanding about it. So if you want to come to my territory, there are rules and there are terms of engagement. These are the things that the governors have stated. And I think that the presidency should actually sit back and look at how best they can work on this thing and work together with the government. I mean, the governors of the states. Because if there is security breach everywhere, even the government wouldn't have a place to stand. Now, so security underscores everything we do. They have alluded to the fact that this is a political movement, this is some ethnic dimension and everything. All those things can only fly when we are secure. So if there's no security, then there is no Nigeria. So the earlier the presidency sits down and work with the governors, the southern governors, and even governors of other regions, the better it is for the nation.
Well, the presidency has come up with what it sees as a solution, because in that statement it says that this ban on open grazing is not necessarily a solution in itself. And so it says that it is coming with this reviving forest reserves, the plan it had some years ago, reviving forest reserves and working with some some states who are ready to actually work with the federal government at ensuring that ranches are built, and so seeing it as a solution, so to speak. But then, if we ban open grazing in itself, are you confident that perhaps this would address the situation that we are talking about in terms of insecurity and clashes between herders and farmers?
Okay, you know the position is this. It's not as if the 17 southern governors came out and said, no more movement of cattle from here to there, stop all your commercial activities. No, right. They said they are against open grazing, but they are for ranching. Now, so if you can, there are terms also regarding ranching. So instead of moving your cattle up and down and creating a security situation in every state or in the states affected, then why don't you go and it's a commercial activity, for God's sake. So the best thing you can do is go to the governors, go to the state, look at how the laws that govern commercial activities there, try and play by the rules, then everything will work fine. For now, this is what they don't want, and I think that it is best to stand by it. The statement by Garba Shehu that the president already signed off on the proposal by the Minister for Agriculture, Sabo Nanono, that they should create certain areas in every state. If the governors say they don't want that, then I think it's best to play with them. It's best to align with them and sit down and work out what works for the state. It's a federation. Okay, and every state is on its own. Even though it's a part of the whole, the state has ability to make laws. The governor has ability to know what is best suited for its state. Now, so I think in that regard, rather than presidency imposing on them, mind you, I keep stressing one thing. This is a commercial activity, and it is done by certain individuals. So if the presidency is siding with just a few individuals against 17 states, that is not the way to go. There are laws that govern our coexistence, and those laws should be respected, and those laws should be given vent to. So presidency imposing and stating that this is the only position that we will follow is just grandstanding, and it will only worsen the security situation.
Which is the
as far as this headers problem is concerned, the presidency never came out. When people were shouting, they never came out with solution.
Right.
They just left it there until the southern governors came out with their position. And instead of aligning, you are opposing. So that's not the way to go.
Which is the concern for a lot of persons across the country, that the timing where we are seeing ethnic tensions, that statement coming at this time might just be fueling some of those tensions that we already see on the ground.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The statement by the presidency will only worsen things. Now you've seen bickerings, you've seen back and forth. This one is accusing this one is saying this one. Different people are coming up with different positions on this thing. That is not how to run a government.
What does it say? What does it say of our intentions to actually deal with this thing head on, saying that we know that this is a security challenge?
It just shows, with all due respect, it just shows that the presidency is not hands-on as far as security situation is concerned, and it shows that they are toiling with the lives of Nigerians. Because if you have situations where, not in one state, not in two, not in 5 states, that we've had cases where killer headers overrun communities and killing people without killing people unchallenged. Now, so I think the position of the presidency is to look into this situation. Look at the security challenges. How do you stop this thing? For now, it's like you have a court. The first thing is try and stop the bleeding. Then we'll now sit down and look at, okay, how will this heal? Now, for now, if open grazing is causing problems, stop. If you stop it, what will happen? Would we die? Will the country collapse? No. The country will function. In fact, if we don't, if that aspect of commerce stops, there are other things we do. Now, you can stop that in the meantime, then call a conference, call a meeting where all the stakeholders will come and air their views, rather than taking a position and siding with certain people. And you know, this thing is funny. The president is from a certain part of the country where these things happen. People already have their own bias, and they feel he's siding with the people. The president, when he came in, said he is for everybody, he is for nobody. Then I think he should live up to that word by sitting down with the people and looking at what best suits them, rather than being seen to be taking side with a certain set of people at the detriment of other people. That is the best thing to do in this circumstance.
All right, lawyer and public affairs analyst Olutubosun Oshifora, thank you for your time on the program.
My pleasure.